Hey everyone, welcome to Question Period Rewind. I'm Donna Skelly, the Speaker of the Legislative Assembly of Ontario. Let's go back to 1986. That's the year when the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inducted its first batch of musicians. Among them, the iconic Ray Charles, Buddy Holly, and of course, Elvis Presley. Tina Turner was also receiving praise in California, where her star on Hollywood's Walk of Fame was revealed. And if you turned on the radio, there's a good chance you'd hear Madonna's #1 hit, Papa Don't Preach. But now, let's tune into the conversations the MPPs were having in Question Period.
Oral questions. The member for Lincoln.
Thank you. Well, Mr. Speaker, my question was for the member for London North, the minister without portfolio, but I see that he's not yet in attendance in the legislature. The Minister of Health is not here, nor is the Premier. Can we expect
Pretty thin picking.
Can we expect the minister without portfolio, the member for London North?
Ask the Attorney General. He runs everything anyway.
Mr. Speaker, perhaps
To whom are you addressing your question?
We perhaps could stand down our first question.
Does the House agree to stand down the first question? Agreed. Second question, the member for Don Mills.
Speaker, I'd like to draw the attention of the Minister of Housing to today's orders and notices. Page 2, item 21 refers to second reading of Bill 78. I wonder if the Minister, since his exchange with the member for Windsor-Riverside yesterday, has had time to consult with officials of his ministry and with those people who give him his instructions in the government, and whether he can tell us whether he intends, in fact, to proceed with Bill 78, or whether it is, in fact, his intention to withdraw the bill, and if so, when we will see its successor.
Minister?
I think I answered that question yesterday, Mr. Speaker, in the House, that we intend to proceed with Bill 78 as it stands now.
Supplementary?
That's not what he said. Given your statement just now that you intend to proceed with Bill 78 as it stands, if I'm understanding what you're saying, can you tell us then whether it is your intention to bring forward, and if so, when, amendments to implement the 11 recommendations made to you by your much vaunted advisory committee?
Minister?
The advisory committee's submission to me, Mr. Speaker, have been looked at in detail, and if there is any amendments to be done towards Bill 78, it will be done. Bill 78, I would see it coming to the Cabinet Committee by next week. So I don't know the process. I don't know to answer in that question, Mr. Speaker, to say when it will reach for second reading here. I know when it goes through the process of Cabinet Committee, then go to Cabinet. The leader then will make the arrangement when it gets to the House.
Final supplementary?
After the first reading, it's going to go to Cabinet. Oh, all right. Okay.
Well, Mr. Speaker, judging by answer from yesterday and the response today, there seems to be an answer here for everybody. Those who want the bill to proceed as is, those who want the bill to proceed with amendments, and those who don't want the bill to proceed to be replaced with something else. Let me just ask you. You have, in every corner of the province, gone out of your way to exclaim the virtues of open government and consultation with the tenants and the landlords who make up this advisory committee. They have made 11 specific proposals to you to amend Bill 78. Can you tell us today whether it is your intention to proceed to amend Bill 78 with all of the proposals submitted to you, or is this consultation process nothing but a sham, nothing but a hollow exercise, and you're going to pick and choose a few things out of the agenda they've given you?
First clause.
Mr. Speaker, the proposal that were submitted to me by the advisory committee is a proposal I think was well thought out, and It's a proposal that we looked at, and I think there will be amendments to Bill 78. When the bill comes forward, Mr. Speaker, the honourable member will see the amendments, and then you will have your time to make your amendments to the bill.
New question. Order. Order. That question's been dealt with. New question, the member for Hamilton Mountain.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a question for the Minister of Energy. Yesterday, in response to the member from York South on the question of tritium export and sales, you emphasized hydro workers' safety and the federal government responsibility over export. You seem to neglect the fact that Hydro is an Ontario Crown corporation owned by your government. Can you tell us today what your policy and the policy of your government is in respect to the export by Ontario Hydro of tritium, when clearly the tritium they export will either be used for military purposes or displace tritium that can be used for military purposes?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Of course, the tritium issue is one that I pointed out was initiated for the safety of the workers at our nuclear plant, so that it should be removed from the heavy water. That won't begin until next year. It'll be about a year from now that they begin to get tritium in the clarifying of the heavy water. I'd like to share with the members the fact that I had pointed out that there wouldn't be any on the market for another year, and that it was being taken out for workers' safety. I now would be able to tell the Assembly, and I think that it's very important that I do that I also would give an undertaking that none of that tritium will be sold for other than peaceful purposes. I give you that undertaking, and it's unequivocal.
Supplementary?
Supplementary, Mr. Speaker. On November the 1st, 1984, in a question which you put to the then Minister of Energy, you said, Hydro is putting on the hard sell to make money on tritium. Hydro is reckless in this matter, and so is the government in not properly controlling the situation. Does the Minister not understand that even if the tritium which Ontario Hydro sells is used for peaceful domestic purposes, it will displace tritium presently being used for those purposes, which will then become available for military purposes?
Minister?
Mr. Speaker, I would add to the comment that I've already made that there will be no tritium supplied to replace any tritium that might be used in the United States in anything other than peaceful purposes. I propose to make that mandatory, and that I will make certain that there will be no displacement of tritium for other than peaceful purposes.
Final supplementary.
Final supplementary then, Mr. Speaker. Since the 4 kilograms which Ontario Hydro will be producing each year exceeds by 8 times the total amount of tritium needed for domestic purposes, will you ensure this House here and now that no Ontario Hydro tritium will be sold or exported for other than the very clearly defined domestic market, and that the rest of their tritium will remain in storage?
Minister?
Mr. Speaker, I want to be very clear. Yes, I will give you that undertaking that there will be no tritium sold for any other than peaceful purposes, and that we will make certain that also it will not displace other tritium, and that we will make that undertaking to this House, and you can be sure that that's the way it will be.
The member for Sudbury East.
A question of my friend, Russell Ramsey Armstrong Rye, better known as the Minister of Labor, regarding Mr. Frank Spurgeon, a CUPE member who was working on a construction site in Oshawa and was killed by an asphalt truck on November the 19th, 1985, Mr. Speaker. At the inquest, is the Minister aware that the inquest held on May the 7th, 1986, evidence was presented that indicated that the death was as a result of a violation of the Occupational Health and Safety Act, Regulation 130, for construction sites. The truck backed up without a signalman to direct it, and there was no signalman assigned to the work site. Might I ask the minister why, when his inspector wrote the report on the order after the death, was that order also ignored?
Minister?
Well, Mr. Speaker, first of all, let me just say to the honourable member who delights, and he can say anything he wants about me, about the minister, that's fair ball. But the honourable member should understand that the people who are working at the Ministry of Labour and in the Occupational Health and Safety Division are just as dedicated as any one of us, himself, myself, or any of the many dedicated health and safety worker reps. I do not have the specifics of the case. Obviously, I will look into them, and I will see the details from the inquest, which, according to the honourable member, apparently from his question, appears to have taken place last week. I will see the transcript if necessary, and I will look into the case and report back to the member.
Supplementary?
Well, a supplementary to my friend, since the letter that I'm quoting from went to him on May the 9th from CUPE. I talk about the swamp with reason. It got lost too. Might I ask a supplementary? Why did the inspectors not follow up on the compliance of this order, and why is it still the practice to spread asphalt without a signalman assigned to direct trucks on site, when in fact we know that there can be a repeat? If this man got killed that way, and this is going on province-wide, could we not have another fatality?
Minister?
Violating your act?
Well, Mr. Speaker, very clearly the matter that the honourable member raises, and I'm not trying to make light of it, is a very, very serious matter. I will look into the matter immediately. And Mr. Speaker, if I might, there are 49 minutes left in question period, and if I can have an answer before then, I'll give the member an answer.
Good. Maybe you'll look up the other while you're asking your staff one final supplementary so that you could provide that for us as well. Are you going to prosecute Bennett Construction Company, or are you simply going to let them get away with murder as well?
Minister?
Well, Mr. Speaker, the honourable member has had a copy of our prosecution policy for some period of time now. I would have thought that he would have read it, Mr. Speaker. The matter of prosecutions is not a matter that is not a decision that is taken by a minister. It is a decision that is taken ultimately in consultation with in our case, with the deputy minister, with the deputy, the executive director, and indeed upon legal advice, including advice, if necessary, from the Crown Law Office. But, Mr. Speaker, it should be understood. It should be understood, and I would have thought, Mr. Speaker, that the honourable member would understand that very often the evidence that comes out at an inquest, Mr. Speaker, is very important in terms of a decision as to whether to prosecute or not. The member is obviously aware that we have a one-year period in which we can prosecute from the date of the potential offense. That would allow us until November of 1986. The inquest was on last week. When the inquest is completed, the legal branch will, as it often does, review the evidence that came out at the inquest, and a decision will be made on that basis.
Order. The member for Lincoln.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My questions to the minister without portfolio, the member for London North, and it concerns care for the elderly, a matter, Mr. Speaker, that this minister's been studying for some 10 months. Mr. Speaker, a recent article in the Hamilton Spectator indicated that less than 1% of the acute care hospital beds were available for elective surgery and emergency treatment in that city, rather than the desired 15%, and that some 222 elderly people in the region were waiting in hospital for long-term care. What has the minister done to convince his colleagues to remedy this very risky and very serious situation? Minister?
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The honourable member and some of his colleagues are, interestingly enough, starting to show some interest in the affairs of seniors in our province. But I'd remind the members opposite that this is the 95th day that we have been sitting here as a government, and it's only been the last 4 or 5 days that they've been concerned enough to ask any questions. Let me tell the member that I I have been working very, very closely with both my colleague from the Ministry of Health, the Honorable Mr. Elston, and my colleague, the Minister of Community and Social Service, regarding all aspects of service to seniors. Now, there's no question that in some municipalities there is a crying need. But, Mr. Speaker, I would submit to you that part of that need comes from the system being mismanaged in the past. And let me tell you, when you see the report that we will be tabling very soon on services for seniors, you will realize that we do have some suggestions for improvement.
Supplementary.
He just walked into it. Mr. Speaker, if I were looking for a supercilious and frivolous answer to a very serious question, I perhaps could have asked one of the other members of the Cabinet who are more active in that capacity.
By way of supplementary.
Mr. Speaker, Dr. Robert Kirby, Executive Director of the Hamilton District Health Council, indicated that the needs for extended care beds have not changed for 1 year, but that the government has failed to fund these beds.
You sat on it for a year.
This is one of many accessibility problems that we will be bringing to the attention of the government. What are you going to do about it, Mr. Minister?
We announced them in April and funded them, and you guys put it...
Well, Mr. Speaker, I think I've already indicated that I will be presenting a white paper, and the date of that is not too far away, and I would submit that along with the ongoing consultative process that we have established over here, something that didn't exist with the former government, will solve many of these problems. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, if the Honourable Minister is looking for a white paper and a consultative process, here is one put out by our caucus some 6 weeks ago. We're still waiting for yours, Mr. Minister. 10 months, and we're still waiting for your white paper. Mr. Speaker, recently an elderly woman by the name of Mrs. Katrina Zielinski was discharged from St. Mary's Hospital in Timmins and placed in a nursing home in Haileybury, some 200 kilometers away. She's one of 38 cases in Timmins alone.
Because of you guys.
In the Ottawa Civic Hospital, 102 chronic care patients occupy acute care beds waiting placement. In the Niagara region, 487 persons are on a waiting list for extended care beds. Why do you continue to create this severe accessibility problem and aggravate human suffering by delaying the funding for nursing home beds that were allocated and announced more than a year ago?
Order. Minister.
If the member is referring to the allocation that he made, or his government made reference to, Mr. Speaker, I would submit to you that the task of the actual allocation is now within our domain, and that the person to whom he might want to address the question in part might be the Minister of Health. However, in his absence, I would submit to you, as I indicated earlier, that we are very much aware of the shortcomings within the system that you people developed over 42 years, and we will do everything humanly possible to correct it.
Order.
I might tell them who is responsible.
Order.
You might look at...
Order. Again, I must remind the members that you're wasting the time of other members that have questions. Order. The member for Don Mills.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to come back to the Minister of Housing, the minister responsible for rent review. Now that he has cleared up, hopefully for the last time, the confusion that has reigned since December when he announced Bills 78 and 79 and has told us we're going to proceed with Bill 78 with amendments. Can he assure this House, Mr. Speaker, that those amendments will be introduced in sufficient time to allow for full debate of the bill in this chamber and then full consideration, including public hearings at committee before the House rises for the summer recess, so that almost 1 million tenant families in Ontario will have ended once and for all the confusion which began the day you became minister and had to refer to some policy book to tell the press and the public what your policy is.
Mr. Speaker, I think if the honourable member would attend the House more, he would have gotten a sequence of what's going on. Being elected, I think that's one of the responsibilities that every member has. Everyone has the responsibility to be in attendance, and I have been. Let me tell you again, the bill will be introduced in time. We hope that that your party do not play any withholding tactics, because it will be there for public input, your input, the third-party input. And we will have it in an open government. The confusion was not there. As a matter of fact, when I introduced and got the tenants and landlords together, some sanity came to this old thing. Thank you.
Supplementary.
Well, that reminds me of the old expression about the patients with the keys running the institutions. You're talking about sanity. Fact is, in January, before this House rose, and in February, I communicated to your House leader our willingness to deal with Bill 78 to serve the tenants of this province. It was you that asked that the bill be put off, not the opposition, neither opposition party.
Supplementary.
So don't try and slap off your responsibility. Are you going to proceed with all of the recommendations made to you by your advisory committee? Are you going to implement every single one of the 11 so that we can answer our constituents, 20-odd thousand in my riding alone, that we know what your policy is,
Minister?
that we can tell them how to deal with their rent increases, that we can tell them what's going to happen to them? What will your policy be?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, it's the first time I would say that the honourable member is right. Yes, we did ask to postpone it because we had good input from the landlords and tenants into their proposal. And that is the reason why we postponed it. We know that we were going to put a very careful policy in so that when it comes before you, you have something substantial to debate. Now, you have not put any input into this. We hope that between the time now and the time that the House sits, that you would have some input in it.
Order. 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 I would remind all members, order, would the member for Cochrane South and the Attorney General control themselves? Order. I would remind the members that on previous occasions I have reminded them of Standing Order 19A. Please address your questions and responses to the chair. I see a lot of finger pointing across the floor. I think it would be much better if you would address your questions and point at the Speaker. New question, the member for Lakeshore.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a question for the Minister of the Environment concerning the very serious revelations about the continuing degradation of the Niagara River. The Minister has previously assured this House, Mr. Speaker, that he would not sign an agreement with respect to cleaning up the Niagara River if it did not contain assurances that there would be a timetable to end the discharges and that there would be removal of the toxic dumps. Can the Minister confirm that despite whatever his federal counterpart may have to say about him these days, he will not sign an agreement merely for the sake of having an agreement and for providing a photo opportunity for federal officials?
Minister?
The negotiations, as the member would likely be aware, have been going on for several months now, and 4 parties have been involved in the negotiations at the federal and provincial level here, the state and national level there. I have indicated consistently the position of the province of Ontario is based upon the recommendations of the Niagara River Toxics Committee report. That is, that there should be a scheduled reduction of pollution into the Niagara River. Second, that there should be extensive monitoring. And third, that there should be provision for the excavation of those toxic waste sites immediately adjacent to the river. I could not, in all good conscience, or on behalf of the people of this province, sign any agreement that did not contain those provisions.
Supplementary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Minister has made his position plain, but I would like to say to him, since it's obvious that the federal government is willing to sign any agreement, no matter how weak, does the Minister not think that perhaps the time has come for independent action by the province of Ontario And will the minister consider launching a legal action against the companies in the U.S. for damages for the pollution that they have caused to our environment?
Minister?
Whenever there is an opportunity to enter into the court system where we can be effective, this ministry is prepared to do so. The member may be aware that we have an intervention at the present time into the Hyde Park cleanup on behalf of the owners of that particular company. We are intervening in that. The member would be aware that with the Niagara Falls, New York wastewater plant, that we have made a legal intervention into that particular case. We appealed the S area case. So on any of these specific instances where Ontario can productively enter into the court system to ensure that we get by legal means what may not be obtainable by political means, we're certainly prepared to do that.
New question? I'm sorry about that. However, you did have a question and a supplementary. You'll have, I'm sure, another opportunity to question the minister further. New question, the member for Brantford.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is...
Order. I missed the member for Grey. I'm sorry.
No, rotation.
Mr. Speaker, I have a question for the Minister of Agriculture. It is my understanding that the tripart... Where is he?
Order.
Here he is. Here he is. He's here. He's here.
Order. Order.
He was out cleaning the box now.
Order. Order. I must remind the members that they recently passed standing orders and standing orders that have been on the books for some time that questions must be taken in rotation. The member for Grey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a question for the Minister of Agriculture. It is my understanding that the tripart stabilization program for farmers in Canada and Ontario came into effect as of January the 1st of this year. It is also my understanding that applications are accepted to this program up until the end of next month, June the 30th. I would like to ask the Minister whose responsibility it is to advertise this program, because I'm not sure that all farmers are aware of the procedures for application.
Minister?
Good question.
Well, Mr. Speaker, application forms were mailed directly from Ottawa last week to the to the pork producers who received the retroactive payments for 1985, and to all those beef producers who are on the red meat plan. Application forms will also be available in the extension branch offices throughout Ontario, and also in the Farm Credit Corporation offices within the next, I would say, 2 weeks, hopefully within the next 2 weeks. And we also have advertised the program in a very widely accepted publication put out by this ministry since the change of government, and that publication, Mr. Speaker, is OMAP News. So we are going to be doing a series in OMAP News about stabilization, so there's no reason that the producers should not be made aware of the stabilization program which is in effect.
Supplementary, the member for Grey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wonder if the Minister could tell us how many products in Ontario are going to be covered by the tripart stabilization program, and if the farmers miss the June 30th deadline, what will be their next opportunity to make application for the program?
Minister?
Well, there's a program in effect. There's a program in effect for slaughter cattle, for the cow-calf operator, for the pork producer, including the weaners, and for lambs. There's been preliminary discussions
for the backgrounder cattle. In other words, the feeder and the stocker cattle. I would hope that we would have a program in place sometime this year. What was the second part of this question? Oh, I would strongly advise that the producers enroll immediately, because if they fail to enroll by the end of June, there is a fairly stiff penalty.
Order.
So they should.
Order. New question, the member for Brantford.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. That was most enlightening, Mr. Speaker. My question is for the Get Tough Minister of Labour. Last November, when the minister introduced his new comply or get prosecuted order, he said, and I quote, that he expected to see a good number of additional prosecutions in the area of occupational health and safety. In fact, since that announcement was made until April 1st of this year, there were 84 prosecutions. In the same period last year, there were 98. Will the minister tell us why his rhetoric is so at variance with the facts so as to jeopardize his precious credibility?
Well, Mr. Speaker, the ignorance of the honourable member is astounding. The fact of the matter is, Mr. Speaker, and I would have thought that the honourable member would have known this basic and fundamental fact, is that those prosecutions which come forward in the early days are prosecution requests which are delayed from the days before the new orders policy came into effect, and only now, having had the effect of the new orders policy and the prosecutions which flow from those orders, such as prosecutions for non-compliance, and only in the months to come will the honourable member see the true effect of the new orders policy in terms of prosecution. I'm confident, Mr. Speaker, that when the numbers come forward in the estimates of the ministry this year...
Order. Supplementary.
Speaker, it's apparent that the Premier's arrogance is creeping rapidly through this cabinet.
Supplementary.
Say to the minister, who has been minister since July of last year, not November when he made his announcement, that it would appear that for 6 months he didn't know that he was going to bring in this new policy. But regardless, Mr. Speaker,
that the question?
Yes, supplementary question,
I thought that
Mr.
was the
Speaker, is
supplementary.
regarding one such case. The minister was in the House yesterday expecting us to pat him on the back for filing notice of prosecution with Metro Works for the sewage treatment plant. Then he goes out into the hallway and tells the media that he is going to delay laying charges. My question to the minister is simply this. You have failed to address the question of prosecution of that plant. When are you going to stop the rhetoric and act regarding that sewage treatment plant?
Well, obviously, Mr. Speaker, and unfortunately and regrettably, the honourable member's ability to review policy of this ministry stops in terms of reading the public press. I am aware that the Toronto Sun this morning reported that there was, Mr. Speaker, that there would be a delay in prosecution while we talked with the company. I want to just reiterate what I said yesterday very briefly, and that is that the discussions with the company are about earlier compliance, because I share with the honourable member the concern that he has about early compliance. It has nothing, and I repeat, absolutely nothing to do with intent to possible prosecution, notice of which was given on Saturday. And Mr. Speaker, there is one other change between this government and the previous government, and that is under the previous government, the order would have simply been reissued. Under this government, intent of possible prosecution is a result of non-compliance.
New question, the member for Etobicoke.
Question to the Minister of Housing, a question which he failed to answer yesterday, and I hope maybe I'll be able to get an answer today. Yesterday I was able to extract from the Minister the fact that there were a large number of tenants that were excluded from the protection of Bill 11, namely those on whose buildings demolition permits had already been issued. My question to the Minister is, what does he intend to do to protect those tenants from losing the roof over their heads?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, sometimes I think members looking for an answer and I don't want to accept the answer that I gave. I said that, which is the correct answer. Glad to see you. Thank you very much. I said those that are issued the demolition permit will not be included under Bill 11.
Supplementary.
Then that the minister is saying that nothing will be done for all of those tenants, that they will be out on the street. And does the minister not feel somewhat responsible that it has taken him 10 months to introduce demolition controls in Bill 11, the very controls that his own leader was able to introduce in a private member's bill 2 years ago? Would the minister not at least agree to introduce a freeze on all demolitions until such time as his bill might be amended and corrected to have some retroactive component in it so that those people would not lose their homes as a result of his negligence?
Mr. Speaker, I do share the concern that the honourable member has, and that the new Rental Protection Act that was brought in, as you know, that not only try to protect those that are being subject to demolitions or eviction because of extensive renovation or conversions to condominiums or so. It is a wider policy legislation than that. And I'm very, very concerned about those. And we had hoped that we could have brought that legislation in early enough to protect all. But, Mr. Speaker, the bill is not a retroactive bill, and I share the concern that you have, and I don't think there's very much we can do at this stage.
New question. The member for Sarnia.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A question for the Minister of Industry and Trade. Mr. Minister, I have had numerous contacts in my riding from firms that are having a great deal of difficulty with respect to the acquisition of liability insurance. One firm by the name of Lamstar Mechanical has had a 1,300% increase in their policy. Sarnia Tank and Vessel has had an increase from $1,500 annual premium to some $30,000 annual premium, in spite of the fact that this firm has had a 21-year accident-free record. Is your ministry prepared to provide some financial assistance to some of these private corporations that are attempting to come to grips with and to provide insurance to their particular corporations under the kinds of circumstances that I have now identified?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Might I say to the member that the Slater report recognizes just many of those same issues that you have just mentioned. And we are looking at some of the recommendations and looking at the alternatives and how possibly this government can assist people such as you have just mentioned.
I appreciate the Honourable Minister mentioning by way of supplementary, Mr. Speaker, mentioning the Slater report, because I'd like to ask him the question, did you in fact, as the representative of industry in this province, make representation to the Treasurer requesting such financial assistance in the budget that we're going to hear within the next couple of hours?
Minister?
Might I say to the member that the Treasurer is aware of some of the...
Order. 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 Interjections are out of order. Order. Minister.
Mr. Speaker, might I say to the member that the Treasurer is certainly aware of the many problems that some of these same businesses have, and those have been relayed to him, but we are still examining the Slater report to see just how we can remedy some of them.
New question, the member for Oakwood.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. My question is for the Minister of Housing. Can the Minister inform the House as to where the tenants at 261 Vaughan Road in my riding stand in regards to Bill 11? These tenants were served eviction notices. The landlord has received approval to renovate from the City of York. They have gone to court on April the 18th, but the judge has postponed a decision waiting to see what your government was going to do. Can you tell us where these tenants stand?
Minister?
Mr. Speaker, if the judge is waiting on the action that this government is going to do in regards to demolitions or renovation, he has that now. He has seen it very strongly, where we're going to take a very strong stand. in preserving any affordable rental stock lost to demolition or to conversion. And I think he has enough evidence of where we're going to go to make his decision.
Supplementary.
Supplementary. Mr. Speaker.
Supplementary.
Mr. Speaker, it is obvious that as the previous question from the member from Etobicoke, these tenants also stand out in the dark or in the street in the dark, according to what the minister is suggesting. Could the minister tell me, because these tenants have been rebuffed by you, sir, in February when they came to you with a specific concern that they had about losing their homes, could you inform us were Mrs. Monday, who's working 4 hours a week, earning $5 an hour, and paying $285 a month, which means 70% of her money goes for rental accommodation, where is she going to be finding accommodation in a market that demands $600 to $700 a month?
Minister.
Where is she going to find accommodation?
Mr. Speaker, there are a number of people in those situations, and I really sympathize with that condition. It is the reason, Mr. Speaker, that's why we brought in that new Rental Housing Protection Act, so that situations like this do not continue. This was not happening yesterday, neither the day before, neither 5 months ago. It had been happening for years, and no action was done in that matter, Mr. Speaker.
Order. I'd say to the members, it's very difficult to hear the questions. It's difficult to hear the responses. I thought the member for Ottawa Centre got us off on the right key today. The member for Eglinton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to direct a question, Mr. Speaker, to the Minister of Colleges and Universities. Mr. Speaker, in the speech from the throne, the government set out as one of its policy goals for our colleges and universities the avoidance of unnecessary program duplication. In view of the concerns expressed by the universities, would the minister define for this House what the government means by unnecessary program duplication?
Minister?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm glad to see that my friend from Eglinton is continuing down the definition trail. We've got through a few terms a couple of weeks ago. I think we had a definition, and today's definition is unnecessary duplication. Let me answer, Mr. Speaker, simply by way of example. Very recently, in fact, just before on or about March the 28th, our ministry and this government approved an allocation to the University of Toronto to purchase a supercomputer. The cost of that supercomputer, the government contribution to that facility is some $10 million. The costs of those kinds of technologies cannot be allocated to every single institution, although many institutions in this province will make use of it. So there's an example of where the government has identified a priority and found a way to involve most of our institutions in the utilization of that priority so that we will not have unnecessary duplication.
Supplementary.
Mr. Speaker, I have a supplementary for the minister. I asked him definition since he is the minister of a learned portfolio. Mr. Speaker, the October budget called for the transfer of OISE to the University of Toronto on the grounds of the elimination of duplication. Since the hearings of the General Government Committee, day after day throughout this province, have revealed that this stated rationale for the transfer of OISE was ill-founded, fallacious, and even false, I would ask the minister to assure the House that the proposal contained in the speech from the throne will not be implemented in such a misguided and misconceived manner.
Minister?
Well,
Minister?
Mr. Speaker, I enjoy the definition. I enjoyed the songs today. We could have a spelling bee here if we, if it were the view of the member from Eglinton that we should do that. I'm just not sure what particular proposal in the speech from the throne he was talking about. You know, he raises the question of OISE. And bringing those two very respected institutions together. And he raised that very question with me, Mr. Speaker, in the Committee on General Government, and he asked the question about duplication. And I said at that time, and I say to the member now, that we will be avoiding duplication in that, but we will be accomplishing far more than the avoidance of duplication. We will be joining the energies of two very respected institutions together. And it's our view, and it's a matter of government policy, that those institutions working together under the terms of unions that are satisfactory to both will be healthy for the post-secondary system in general, Mr. Speaker, and will be of great benefit to the education community in Ontario generally, at the primary level, the secondary level, and indeed the post-secondary level. And I think my friend from Eglinton is slowly being convinced that view is the appropriate one.
New question. Oh, the member for Ottawa Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my question is to the Attorney General and Minister responsible for women's issues. Will the Minister explain why his government is proceeding with the persecution by prosecution of doctors who are providing abortion services in clinics instead of fulfilling the personal commitment of the Premier promise to provide each woman will have full and equal access to therapeutic abortions in Ontario?
Well, Mr. Speaker, thank you for the topical question. Let me say that my obligation as Attorney General is to enforce the criminal code in those cases where it is brought to our attention by the police that there are reasonable and probable grounds to launch a prosecution. I intend to carry forward that duty in the best way I can. Any other questions are questions for the Minister of Health.
Mr. Speaker, as the Minister responsible for women's issues, I think that this Minister has more responsibilities than simply the legal questions involved. And I'd like him to tell us what measures beyond the task forcing yet again of this issue this government is going to provide fairness and equity for women who need abortions in Ontario.
Mr. Speaker, I don't see any conflict between my role as Attorney General and my role as Minister responsible for women's issues. As the Honourable Member knows, we have in the Women's Directorate of Ontario an elaborate series of programs that are designed to deal with a wide range of problems affecting women in the province. She has access to them. If there are any particularities in which she thinks suggestions can be made for their improvement, I would be delighted to have them, either firsthand here today or in some other way.
New question, the member for Durham York.
I have a question for the Minister of Agriculture.
I'm sorry, the member for York West. Sorry, York East.
Mr. Speaker, my question is directed to the Minister of Citizenship and Culture.
Order. 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 New question, the member for York East.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question relates to the Don Valley Brickworks in the riding of York East. Many of us in that riding are very interested in the future of that development. Can you tell us, Minister, the status of your ministry's involvement in what is for us a most important environmental issue?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Ministry of Citizenship and Culture has been involved since the fall of last year in trying to look at the heritage aspects of the Don Valley Brickyards. Initially, we placed a stop order in the fall of 1985 to stop the construction by Tor Valley Developments. Since that time, we have also moved to investigate through the Ontario Heritage Act a designation, and we have also involved all concerned bodies, including the Minister of Natural Resources, the Ontario Heritage Foundation, the Metro Toronto Regional Conservation Authority, the Metro Toronto Save the Valley Committee, University of Toronto Archaeology, and on and on. This ministry believes that the designation will protect the historical aspect of the brickyards, the North Slope in specific.
Order. 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 Supplementary. The member for York East.
Mr. Speaker, can the minister tell us why the most unusual step of designating a piece of land for heritage preservation was taken with respect to the Don Valley brickwork?
Good question.
Mr. Speaker.
Order. To offer this gavel to any member that would like to come up and listen to it from here. Order. 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 Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I think I referred to all of the interested parties who had expressed an interest in the historical and archaeological significance of the land, and referring it to our ministry agency, Ontario Heritage Foundation, which is charged with the responsibility of protecting our heritage. Tor Valley, we're designating the north slope of the Don Valley Brickyard. We believe, on good advice not only from the Foundation but also from the University of Toronto and international archaeological associations, that there is substantial value to the geological features and the historical features. What we are thus doing is, Tor Valley right now is appealing the case before the Metro Toronto Regional Conservation Authority. We expect that the appeal will be turned down. If it is, we expect that the Ontario Heritage Foundation will continue to work at designating the property.
Order. I'll just wait. I'll just wait patiently. New question. The member for Durham York.
Question for the Minister of Agriculture, Mr. Speaker.
You ready, Jeff?
Will the minister explain why some farmer elevator operators have been paid for corn grown on their own farms and lost in the McKinley bankruptcy, while others in the same position have not?
Minister.
Sounds like a disgruntled ex-minister.
If a grain elevator operator is also a producer, and he could prove that the grain that went into his elevator was his own grain, then he became eligible the same as any other producer.
Right.
But if it's stored grain from another producer, then of course it's a different story. But if he can prove that it was his production, then he would be eligible.
Noble understands it.
Supplementary.
There are a number of producers that have been treated extremely unfairly. And am I to understand it, that if the farmers that have not been paid, if they become sleazy businessmen and declare bankruptcy in their own elevator operation, then they will be compensated for the grain that they have not been paid for at this date?
Minister.
Well, the member would have to send me over the specific case. I don't believe that to be the fact whatsoever. This ministry does not bring in programs that makes people out there become sleazy, and I certainly don't accept the fact that there are sleazy operators out there.
Order. Order. New question, the member for Sault Ste. Marie. Order, the member for Essex and South. Order. Order. I could recess for 5 minutes, but then the clock stops, so I won't. New question, the member for Sault Ste. Marie.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a question for the Minister of Industry, Trade and Technology in regard to some statements made at CP's annual meeting last week. Late last week, Chief Executive William Stinson singled out Algoma Steel Corporation Limited as an early candidate for write-downs, and he went on to note that major restructuring is planned at Algoma Steel. He also stated that CP intends to reduce its exposure to commodity price cycles and to expand outside of Canada. Has the Minister investigated Canadian Pacific's intentions with respect to long-term investment or disinvestment on the behalf of Canadian Pacific in Algoma Steel and the potential effects on long-term viability of this steel plant? What actions is your ministry taking in respect to the employees and communities of Sault Ste. Marie in regard to CP's control of Canadian Pacific and their stated intentions?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, as the member knows, I set up a meeting for himself and myself and some of our ministry officials about a week ago, and that was one of the matters that was discussed and was brought to our attention by the member, and is something that we are checking into.
Supplementary, the member for Algoma.
In view of the minister's interest, does he agree that a company such as Canadian Pacific, which has gained a great deal of profit through the exploitation of the resources of Northern Ontario and the whole province, owes something more to the community than the kind of statement that was made to the employees of Algoma Ore Division in Wawa this morning, where the company informed the workers that there were only two choices for that operation: either complete shutdown and laying everybody off with devastating effect to the town of Wawa, or cutting the capacity by 1/2 and laying off 175 workers. What does the minister believe corporations like Canadian Pacific and Algoma Steel owe the communities that have provided them with so much wealth over the years? What is this government going to do to prevent this kind of disinvestment in Northern...
Order. Minister.
Just as the member has expressed concern, we also have many concerns in this area. As I say, when the member from the Sioux met with us last week, he expressed somewhat those same concerns that you have, and the company certainly has an obligation.
New question, the member for Leeds.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is for the Minister of Corrections. Would the Minister, if the Minister heard me, this is for the Minister of Corrections? That's you, Ken. The Minister informed the House as to the status of the secure young offenders facility announced for the Brockville vicinity almost 1 year ago.
Minister.
The status is no different than it was exactly 1 year ago at the present time. We still have not got the secured funding to do the structure, and there has been no other directions taken with regard to that facility that would give the member any particular cause for concern about its location.
Supplementary.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday I informed the House that a badly defeated Liberal candidate was announcing government grants in my riding, an unprecedented example of shabby, shoddy, cheap politics.
More sleeves. More sleeves, Jack.
Order. 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 You may or may not get your supplementary in. Order. Order. Supplementary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Supplementary. Will the minister confirm that he's engaged in the same kind of cheap political game in respect to this facility, and that the only reason for the foot dragging is the fact that the riding isn't held by a Liberal.
Because of the noise, I don't know whether the minister heard the question.
No, I have reasonably good hearing, but with so many asses braying, I couldn't quite make out the question.
New question? The member for Beaches Woodbine.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a question for the Minister of Labour. Mr. Minister, recently we learned from Lois Sweet's column in the Toronto Star for April 30th that an Ontario working couple ready and willing to adopt an older child was unable to do so because there is no adoption leave provided for in Ontario law. Mr. Minister, when are you going to bring in legislation to plug this gap and at least put adopting parents on an equal footing with natural parents who are entitled to 17 weeks maternity leave under the Employment Standards Act?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The honourable member raises an excellent point and a matter that is of concern to the government. We are looking, Mr. Speaker, at a series of amendments to the Employment Standards Act. So I'm sure the member knows there are a number of areas that need to be changed, need to be improved, and we would like to bring them forward as a comprehensive package. I can assure the honourable member, Mr. Speaker, that we are looking very actively at making adoption leave part of that package.
Time for all questions has expired.